Alright guys, this is for Eric, to hopefully explain this a little bit better. I know I'm not good at explaining things, but anyway, so if you look at your heating control, there's 5 positions, but you have off, then you have low, medium 1, medium 2, and then high. Alright, now keep that in mind there. This is the wiring schematic for the blower system. Alright, now here's your blower motor over here, and there's the battery feed. The positive is always there. Alright, well, it goes through the ignition switch, but it's when the ignition's on, the motor always has power at the motor. Alright, and then the ground goes through the resistor block and over to your controls. Now over your controls, for the 4 positions you have low, medium 1, medium 2, and high. And if you notice, high doesn't have a resistor. It just goes straight through to the blower motor. So that's just a direct to ground route. And that's why I soldered the black and tan directly to ground. Instead of the switch trying to make the connection here, that switch isn't there anymore, so it just goes from ground to that wire to the black and tan. It goes down to where the resistor block is, and since I've gotten rid of the resistor block, right, that's gone now, the black and tan gets soldered to the dark blue and yellow. Now it may not get soldered right to the dark blue and yellow. The pulse width modulation unit goes in between here. Okay, so that'll be your in and that'll be your out for the ground to the motor, and then all your pulse width control does is control the way they work is it makes connections really fast, so it's getting 12 volts at full ground, but it'll be like on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off, and it'll do that at a varying speed to simulate whatever main voltage you need to make the motor do what you want it to do. I've been running mine pretty hard every day with the 18-volt up converter, and it hasn't really affected it. I mean, I haven't noticed anything. I've run them on the basic 12 volts. I've run it on the 12 volts, run these for years, and have never had a problem. The way they work is, let's say, the pulse width module controller can push out, or it can supply 40 amps. So that means if the motor stalls or needs more power, it can pull up to 40 amps through there. It doesn't mean that it's always getting 40 amps. Like, it may only be getting 10 amps, but it has the capability to feed 40 amps if it's required. But yeah, the way they work, the way electricity works, just because it says 40 amps doesn't mean it's pushing 40 amps. Whatever the device, the motor requires, so it'll pull amperage. It doesn't get forced amperage. But that's big enough that if there's a problem here, the fuse should blow before the pulse width modulation controller has any issues. Alright, now, and honestly, you could probably get away with just using that 12 volt one. It does blow pretty good. I was just kind of interested to see what would happen if I put the up converter, the 24 volt, I'm sorry, I said 18 before, but yeah, the 24 volt up converter in there. And that's just out of control. Like, it's like an industrial shop vac in there. So I don't know if you'd want to do that or not. But yeah, just the normal 12 volts should be fine. And like I said, you can play with those potentiometers to see what range you want it to be in. Try it with the one that comes with the pulse width modulator, and then see how that works. If that works fine, then you can get the bigger size in the same exact value to fit into the control panel here. That's the only reason I changed that out, is because the one that came with it is too small to fit in here. I mean, you can put it in there and make it work, but these ones work great, and you put the knob on and it looks factory. Is the only reason I did that. Alright, and then the next question, I believe, was the soldering of the spade connector on here. The reason we're doing that is because the panel lights are actually grounded through the heater control switch. So you could run a jumper wire if you wanted to any ground point you wanted, but to be honest, this is pretty simple. All right, so what's happening here is these are the connectors for the spades to fit into. Actually, another spade would fit into them, but that's on the blower control switch that's not there anymore, so they're not used. Okay, now since the way they're designed, so you see there's a nice gap in there, a nice hole. You take one of these spades, and I'll try and do this with one hand. You just slide it in there. I gotta use my other hand. They just sit right in there, nicely like that. They just sit right down in there. And then you just hit it with the soldering iron, get it warm, and dab some solder in there, and it'll suck in around there and hold it in there nice and tight. The only thing I can say, like, I don't do what I did the first time. I messed up, wasn't paying attention, and I soldered it in this way. And I don't know why, I just wasn't paying attention. But when it's that way, it doesn't fit down through these slots. It's going the wrong way. So just make sure you get it in line at the short end of the board, so it's like that. But that's extremely easy, man. I wouldn't have any problems doubting that anybody could do that, even with the crappiest soldering iron in the world. This is probably the easiest soldering anybody would ever have to do. All right. But if you didn't want to do that and you wanted to do a jumper wire, you could just solder a wire in there and run it to another ground. You could, technically you could probably run it over to this circuit, the ground in here, which is probably, I don't have my meter on me, but it's probably in continuity with the case to this. So you could probably just run that to any of one of these ground planes on here. But I wouldn't even deal with that. I think honestly, this is the easiest way to go. It's nice and simple, and then when you need to take the panel out, you just unplug it, and it's good to go. I don't know if there's anything else I have to say. If you really are that uncomfortable with doing that, or if anybody is, I have this one here that I'm not using. If you wanted to send me your board and I could send you this one, and just trade, I'd be happy to do something like that. This one is out of a unit that has both rear defogger and the air conditioning. Just some of them don't have both. Some of them only have the one. Or if you have one that's different and you just don't trust yourself to do any of that stuff, I would be happy if you want to send it to me. We could work out something and I would just do it. I mean, you'd have to contact me and we would talk about it, but I'd be happy to do it if you really think you can't do it, or anybody can't do it. But I hope I explained this good. If you have any questions or I didn't get anything clear, please let me know, and I will try and do a better video or focus on something different. Just let me know what you need, alright? And I'll try to help you out. Alright? Thanks, guys.